morning. I'm trying to guess if there's too many of you or too few of you for the early morning. But I think it's quite enough. And in that sense, it's actually my honor, my joy to really welcome you back for the second day, because it's not going to be any worse than yesterday. I promise you that. But look, distinguished ministers, I'm especially glad there's so many of you for the whole event, as well as sort of this morning as well. Colleagues, and I should even say indeed friends, right? Both old ones whom we've seen before, and new ones that we are getting friends with this time. It's yes, already the fifth time we have had this event here, and thanks really to eGovernance Academy for sort of keep bringing us all together like that. I thought to say a few words of introduction really about a few things that I think resonated for me from yesterday's discussions on the very same stage, but I think also a few things that have resonated really from the Estonian experience of going digital in our government and more widely, as well as our experiences from many, many countries around the world, where we have tried to really work and sort of, exactly, try to share and transfer some of our lessons learned. And I'll speak about, I guess, 5 points really in this morning, in the hope to perhaps get the next panel discussion going, as well as the rest of the day going, as well as sort of, something for you to take back home with. So first, we have this conference theme as, same objectives, different roadmaps. So in many ways, what we have seen in Estonia is that planning is really important, but delivery, of course, is even more so. Even all the way to the point that one of my good friends, the former Chief Digital Officer of Britain, always said, strategy is delivery. So keep doing things, keep sort of course, yes, you have to have a direction, but it only works, it only has a meaning if you keep doing things in that direction. So by this I mean that I think roadmaps clearly matter, but in many cases we have seen, and I had the same sort of fault in Estonia, we want to have the perfect roadmap. We want to have everything down, we end up with sort of policy plans that cover it all, all the different aspects of digital development. That takes years. Years of time where we actually already could have been building things, and in that sense made the roadmap even stronger and better, because if you show people, yourself, your colleagues, the critics, how things work, they actually buy into the program. So delivery and the sort of approach or attitude of just do it is just as important as the planning. And I think in many ways, perhaps my predecessors, many of who are here as well, might disagree, but I think that was really the spirit when we got going in Estonia 20 or so years ago as well. Yes, there was a vision that we want to be digital. There was sort of, let's say, very high ambition, but there was also a lot of experimentation, just trying to get going. Whether it was the beginnings of X-Road, whether it was the beginnings of digital ID, the first services, there was no really grand master plan. It was, yes, direction, vision ahead, but just still trying to sort of start delivering in that aim, try to see what works, experiment with what works. And that brings me to the second point. What I hope we have learned from our experience is that experimentation really is often what we need. And that means taking risks, jumping a bit into the unknown, if you wish. When we started with online voting, by the way, today is the last day to vote online for the European Parliament, so any Estonians who haven't done so, please do. Your vote counts, whoever you vote for. Whether it was online voting in 2005, which nobody else had done in the world, and many people said, no, it can't be done securely. Well, the decision also and the risk-taking willingness from politicians was, but let's try it, let's see how it could be done. There was also quite a lot of engineers sort of, suggesting, hey, there are ways to work with the risks so that, exactly it will be secure and just as secure as the paper voting is. That's how it has been now for the last 14 years. Or it was e-residency, which we started in 2014. We didn't know the full scale of potential with e-residency. We didn't even really know all the risks yet, but we had the spirit and we convinced the politicians and they had the spirit, but hey, let's try this out. Let's see how to make it work, how to manage the risks, and through that, perhaps exactly we have lots to gain, which we now see. E-residency brings in, crude economic revenue for the country every week of the year. So my point being, digital government often means that we have to, it's literally transformation as the buzzword is. Transformation, eGovernance Academy is famous for saying this too, means that we have to manage change. Managing change takes leadership. From the ministers, from the CIOs, from the colleagues around the different governments of ours. But these risks, if we manage them well, they pay off, and that payoff is a digital dividend, the digital efficiency of our governments and so forth. So yes, taking risks, experimenting is often the way forward, even if, yes, we don't have it fully down and we need to see, and perhaps sometimes we have to stop some things that didn't work and start again. Now, which brings me to the third point, the role of government in this digital age. I think that yesterday there was a bit of discussion even on the stage here about that doing policy in our digital age, that technology is moving ahead fast, the changes are only increasing, the problems are more wicked, that doing policy is quite a bit harder in this context. I agree, but I would also argue in this context it's even more important to keep doing policy and keep attempting to really sort of provide some sort of stability and road ahead for the whole country of ours. So in many ways, the more wicked are the problems, the more we have to be there in the policy space to try to actually work with them. We won't have the perfect solutions yet from the beginning. We have to experiment with things. So the role of governments, at least the way we sort of see it when it comes to technological progress and the way we see it in Estonia, is that we don't want to be bystanders. We want to be exactly going on with the program, be champions of it, if you wish, be catalysts of this change, making use of the trends that are around us and trying to basically prevent and counteract those that might be harmful for us. So if I take the example of, let's say, again from technological field, artificial intelligence, yes, the technology is early, in very early stages of development. Yes, there might be many sort of threats with this technology for jobs or for cybersecurity and so forth. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be applying this. We just have to exactly be experimenting, and our role really is to figure out ways how our whole country can make use of this technology by leading the way in terms of using it in government. That's exactly the cornerstone of our government's AI policy that comes out next week. That from the government side, from public sector side, we try to be the lead user so that critical mass of experience, so that safe ways of applying this technology build up, so that all the rest of the economy can actually start making more use of it as well, so it becomes a cornerstone for our digital journey for the next years. I have mentioned the word risks quite a bit, and that brings me to the sort of fourth point. I haven't heard it, luckily enough, too much sort of used in this conference and event here, but often we are asked about them for good reasons. But hey, how can you go digital in the government, in the society, if there are so many risks involved? How can you really make sure that people's privacy is not violated and sort of hackers don't hack you down? Well, you have to try your best. In Estonia, we have been very careful, very keen to always sort of work very hard when it comes to cybersecurity and privacy. Whatever we have built, we have tried to build in the possible secure way, with the latest crypto technologies, for example, with the latest sort of state-of-the-art procedures to manage those risks. But our approach has been that if we have faith and ability to manage those risks, that should not stop us from going digital. It's basically the necessary other side of the coin of being digital. We have to work on managing the cyber risks. We have to work on managing the privacy risks. But there are ways of doing that. We have to invest in this. Yes, we have to build up capacity for this. That's why we have tried to build up excellence really in this field. But that's the thing that allows us to be digital, to reap all those benefits in our government and beyond that digital tools can give us. So this, yes, approach to rather managing the risks and staying because of them away, I think is quite an important thing to keep in mind, because the risks will always be there. We have always tried to be, from the government side of ours, open with our public as well, saying that, look, something can happen. We will never be 100% unhackable. But we do all these things that we do to make this utmost small possibility. But some risk will remain. But the benefits are so great that we rather should be accepting this and exactly taking it to the minimum. Which brings me to the very last point. I think in this regard, whether it's the question of how to counter risks, whether it's the question about how to build up digital services, how to build up the infrastructure, the building blocks for digital services from X-Road to identity and so forth, we fundamentally believe that there's a lot we can learn from each other. That perhaps there's something to learn from Estonian experience. We have learned a lot from others' experience. We still keep doing so. One of our, let's say, foreign or digital collaboration sort of aims is to constantly keep understanding what are other governments doing, so that perhaps we can copy some ideas, we can take over some solutions. That's how we got identity from Finland. That's how we sort of have been taking over some AI models now for concrete services from other countries, because they work. we better not reinvent the wheel, but take the solutions, take the ideas, take the policies that have worked and implement them in our case as well. That makes us go ahead faster. The same way, we are only happy to share what has worked here. And that's why I'm glad exactly this event is taking place. That's why I'm glad for the great work that the e-Governance Academy, our ICT clusters and others do around the world in transferring some of our know-how. I often get asked, okay, but is Estonian experience really transferable? Is it really scalable? Because you're so small, for example. And to that I always say, look, in many ways, our governments are the same size, whatever is in the size of our population, because the things we do, the services we provide, the functions we carry out are very similar. So again, if we compared even a few years ago with Britain, the list of the services that, interactive services that our governments were offering to the people, the list was nearly the same in the number and size, which means the transformation effort is the same. Or if I give you another analogy, another good friend of mine always says, it doesn't matter if you're having a wedding party for 50 people or 150, it's the same amount of effort you put in. So it's the same thing with government services, the same number of services or same number of functions you have to work on. The transformation effort is many ways similar. Yes, in bigger countries there might be more stakeholders to convince, literally people you have to sit down with and talk this through, but that's it. All the rest of size is difference in the size of lines in the database of a registry. The scale of your operations, how much of computing power you need, that's it. That's a technological problem. And why I'm also confident that quite a few of our sort of lessons can be transferable is that, look, there are 100 countries around the world, many of you here, who have been applying some of Estonian solutions, who have been working with our experts to build up your own solutions based on the lessons and the policy principles from here. So these things are scalable. Not everything, not always. They have to be customized, yes, but at least there's things to be learned and things to basically exactly transplant elsewhere. And that's why I said we're happy to share. We are happy that you're here for this purpose. We're happy to keep sharing, whether it's some sort of collaborations we can do under the international umbrellas of UN, of World Bank, of Smart Africa, so forth, or whether it's basically things we can do bilaterally and the things that you can involve the Estonian experts in. So long story short, thank you once more for being here. Our doors are always open, for that matter, whether it's in the virtual world or whether it's the next year's conference or whether it's sort of meetings in between. And I do wish that this day is also another good day of discussions and new contacts and new ideas to take home with. Thank you.
Thank you, Siim. Thank you, sir.